Looks like we're just waiting for people to come back. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
So, by the way, Fire's voice sounds like, I don't know, super familiar.
She was in with us last night. She's in lots of different spaces. You normally find her around lots of different Bitcoin spaces as well. Firebus helps with loads of people's spaces. So yeah.
No, it's like, I don't know. I'm sure it's just the accent that is also giving the I guess the effect there. But Fire, you articulate liberty and freedom pretty good. So keep it up. Sure, we can't talk right now, but I'm sure you know what I mean. So, are we going to talk about people, what they're building, or we should do something about what people are building or sometimes soon?
Thank you so much for that.
Well, the game is
a little bit of reverb there.
A little bit.
There's people got the space on a speaker phone, and their mic is right next to it. That's every time your mic is open. If anybody else is talking, it's going to create an echo. So just FYI.
Yeah, that was me, by the way. Yeah, that's the one thing that as well they got to fix with Twitter Spaces as well. That if you're setting up an admin, you should be able to set up the admin from the desktop. The other thing is setting up so that you can mute the admin, because I noticed that a lot of people have that problem as well, that they set up and they have to have another phone, and the other phone won't let you mute it. So it's just stupid.
Hey, Fire.
Implement some sort of echo cancellation in the thing, at least. Jesus.
Hey, Fire. What year did you first get introduced to Bitcoin?
Right. I don't normally connect any part of my life to years, as I find it, as it's been such a whirlwind, I can barely remember. But with that one question, I do remember. I got into Bitcoin, I believe, in 2022, not that long ago. But, and I know some of you are thinking, my God, she's that green. But I would just like to say, in my defense, I believe I was born a Bitcoiner. It just took me a while to run into it.
Excellent.
And I like the fact, Chad, that you absolutely agree with my analogy with regards to the Bitcoin train and the crypto trains. I absolutely hold tight to that. And when I explain it, I don't say it negatively. And I'm not saying, oh, the Bitcoin train is super fast. It's the bullet train, and and the cryptos are on the underground. I never say it like that. I just say that, it's two bullet trains, but one is just Bitcoin, and the other has all the other cryptos, and it gets noisy and scammy over there, and they should sort it out and make it more transparent, because that's the beauty of Bitcoin. It is transparent. You can go and educate yourself and learn, and it's there. Whereas it's not so easy with crypto, and they really should sort that out so that people that are coming into it from new, we can say, well, look, go and read that. That'll sort you out. How do you do that in crypto? It's not really there. And if it is there, it's going to cost a fortune. See? Good information and education should be free. I always ride with Bitcoin.
I can help with that a little bit. So the whole notion of Bitcoin isn't crypto, and I get your sentiment of what you're saying, because there's a lot of scammers out there that are working in the fungible token space, so to speak, and they're pumping and dumping their bags. That's totally understandable why there's that sentiment. But at the end of the day, we should most definitely do due diligence on everything that we're investing in our time and money and energy into. And in my opinion, the Bitcoin most definitely has the largest network effect for freedom and liberty, for monetary sovereignty, and that's what drives me to it. But I don't look at Bitcoin as the holy grail. I look at it as basically a signal in the direction to go, because when you're operating on Bitcoin, you are performing cryptographic signatures. You're signing your transactions, so they're not mutually exclusive. So I just look at it like, just as long as everybody's moving in the direction of towards freedom and liberty and away from authoritarianism, I think that's really what we should encourage, and that will drive more innovation and less tribalism, and that ultimately will lead to more freedom and liberty, because that's really, I think, what everybody's after. They don't want to be ruled by force and coercion. They want to be, they want to have a stake and a say in their own life's direction, right? So I think what your sentiment is 100% spot on. Avoid the scammers for sure, but don't judge a book by its cover simply because the tool set is not something you're familiar with. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you, but the proof is in the eating of the pudding, is it not? And
well, that comes down to due diligence, though.
Yeah, absolutely. But to me, that's the whole point. And that's why it bothers me, because I don't want to see anyone get scammed at all. And so for everything, I think it should be about education right across the board, so that people will go into things with just that, spending the time to protect themselves and not being blinded by, oh, I'm going to make a fast buck. Oh, this is great. Because, there's no such thing as a free lunch.
Totally. You got to actually provide a product or service in the actual productive free society. You can't expect a free lunch, just like you said.
Yeah, we're in absolute agreement, cryptocracy, and I'm following you, and thank you.
Yeah, somebody else can say some stuff here. I don't want to go on a rant and a ramble, but I 100% agree with the liberty and freedom, uh, you know, focus. That's really what I think will lead to the most innovation.
When I heard about Bitcoin in 2013, I was overjoyed. I was so excited when I started to learn the potential, what the future would bring with Bitcoin. And I bought as many Bitcoin as I could afford. And then I stopped. And I was listening to guys like Trace Mayer, if anybody's heard of him, and Andreas Antonopoulos, I believe is his name, Andreas Antonopoulos, and Max Kaiser, and I was reading, and I was so happy that the original guys, and many of them stayed on with the project, were creating this. I was so excited, and now I feel that way about Stacks. That's the way I feel about Stacks.
Well, that gives me a little bit even more conviction, because clearly, you've got good instincts, you've done your diligence and homework, And if you're feeling that about stacks, hey, that's a positive thing.
Yeah, the future is so bright, continually getting brighter for stocks. Like it's a train that I want to be on. I want to learn to develop in stocks clarity and slash clarity. Um, it's something I want to be a part of, and I want to buy stacks as well and hold on to it, and maybe buy a few NFTs as well over at Gamma. And it's just, yeah, I'm really excited about stocks.
And that's pretty much the way that I feel about it as well. It's like stacks is definitely got me excited in that same way as when I first discovered Bitcoin. Like it's like I was in another a guy was talking about building, and I was saying to him, look, bro, if you've got such a big problem with the slowness of whatever's been building, and I probably sounded like an absolute super maxi. I know you was in there as well, Fireburst, but I said to him, bro, if you've got such a big problem with it, bro, you can always submit a bit proposal, bro. Like, in the day. So like I think some of us maybe when we discovered Bitcoin may not have been at that level of understanding yet to be able to do something like a bit proposal. And because things have moved on a lot, and I'm glad Hero Gamer's in here because he does all the SIP proposals, which are the stacks improvement proposals. He deals with he doesn't do all of them, but he deals with that area of the blockchain. So so yeah, I mean, like people can improve these things. People can decide to learn to build on Bitcoin or build with Bitcoin focus or Bitcoin centric, and we're all you know have these things available to us. So it depends which level you decide to build at. And I'd say that what Stacks does is it brings it to that Ethereum level that everybody's kind of the so-called ease of use or faster transactions or any of these other excuses that people use to use anything else. I think that Stacks covers a lot of those bases in a way that some of the other Bitcoin solutions or side or layers doesn't. So yeah, definitely with you on that one, bro, and with you as well, Fireburst.
Hi Nat, great that you mentioned about the BIP and the SIP, uh, and and just sort of out of um, interest, like I didn't know until fucking BIP until maybe last year. I didn't know that was the fucking way um, how things get standardized. Even so, I had to sort of learn that slowly. So I don't want to over advertise. I know more than anyone else, but I
And
do.
he's modest. And he's modest.
Yeah, I just want to say like I am learning as I go. Um, but yeah, I think it is a very interesting area for the reason that it's like BIPs. It's like IP Well, Ethereum also got that. In fact, the root goes back much earlier. I'm pretty sure Linux has that equivalent too, because SIP was created by Jude and Ken, and he referenced a few other organizations like the Linux stuff, which basically trace back to like the 80s. So these are based on pretty solid foundation, as far as I know. So I think it's and particularly when you look at BIPs, it is how Bitcoin sets standard, like Taproot or any other previous standard that's been set. It is a pretty solid way of setting standards and how things get improved. And one point that you mentioned, which is quite interesting, is about like it is something that I'm actually trying to work on. And if you guys got an idea to make that easier, I do wanna pick everybody's brain because yeah, like I am actually trying to make it as easy as if Nat's got an idea, if Doc got an idea, or if Chad got some ideas, we want to make that anybody who has idea be able to propose that idea really easy, and have the support system to take the idea sort of with other developers' help, if you like.
So you're talking about, are you talking about like technical details on the SIP implementation, or are you talking about generalized like feedback that is, potentially impacting and needing, some sort of SIP implementation? So I'm kind of like, are you talking about building a front end for, like, I don't know, API? Because typically these are all handled via the GitHub, right? The repo, right?
Yeah.
So
So I think it's actually quite open-ended, this question, because I think it can be, for example, the way I imagine in my head would be maybe Nat saw some. For example, if I take the people in this room, let's say Nat, a Doc, he's got like photography, but background, maybe he has non-technical background, but he saw some idea, or maybe he somehow comes across some standard that needs to be set, and then he can't take it to the end, he can't take it to the finishing line, but then maybe cryptocracy or Chad, who may have more technical experience, can come together and help him, and plus other people's help who have previous SIP writing experience. So you sort of link the different people and support system together and make that process easy, so that anybody who has an idea to improve in stacks, uh, we can sort of do that.
you can create a front end on that is basically doing API calls to the GitHub repo for after you
That's
format
exactly
the
sort of.
request, and then your form could split the request based off of the user's input. So like they could, if your user's providing a little bit of background for themselves, you could determine kind of if they have more or less a technical knowledge to be able to provide more granular detail about the proposal, right? And then if they're not as technical, that maybe your form could be dynamic and just kind of expect the information in more in a generalized sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think currently, because SIP and BIPs in nature tend to be more technical orientated. And when you speak to anybody in the ecosystem, I'm just picking anybody out of the hat. Like nobody has a GitHub account. Like if you're talking about normal people, right? Like nobody has, and nobody cares. It is very
So
much
true.
for the open source developers. Um, so I do think, in my idealistic world, I do want to link sort of the both side of the people together somehow, and it does require front end. Like chat, what chat did, actually is pretty interesting, because GitHub grants is on this back to fucking GitHub again, and he managed to pull some data, created a simple website to help people to navigate these grants, and I do think it's somewhat equivalent actually, maybe to what you just said, but for SIP data that living on GitHub right
So,
now.
I think you can raise API. I think you can raise GitHub issues via API calls through GitHub's API.
You mean so
So
I can go to a website, create an issue without going onto GitHub to create an issue, right?
I'm pretty sure, yeah, I'm pretty sure your repos are, all the actual issues that
Yeah,
you can create.
so
I'm pretty sure that's exposed to
interestingly,
the API.
did you use the website for voting this year?
Which one? There's a lot. That's a general statement for me. Sorry.
So Stacks 2.1 upgrade, there was a website for voting,
Oh,
and
for 2.1 upgrade? No, but I was pretty confident it was going to go through. So that's just me being lazy. Sorry.
oh man. Anyways, that one of
I know what it looks like, and I've seen it, but I didn't actually do the vote though. So
okay, next year you'll have or next time, don't worry. But anyway, one of the
Um,
websites that was created basically had uh, 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 a page to navigate SIPs. So that could be a starting for.
Yeah, that's just doing an API call to get the existing issues and rendering in some sort of table.
I don't know how it works in the background, but it works.
I think what would be super duper interested, right, is for either Hero or Express, which again, Hero maybe you might be able to tell us a bit about if Express. I know this was suggested to them, and I know they did talk on it a little bit, but having the ability to do that voting inside of your wallet is like ridiculous, man. Like
I know.
takes
In
it to the
fact,
next
somebody
level.
posted about it. I can't remember who it was.
I remember.
Actually, I remember now. Somebody called
remember.
Oldman Bills, and he's sort of from the Exodus community. He noticed a wallet in the Cosmos ecosystem, I believe called Kepler or something. They managed to have voting directly from the wallet, and I do think eventually that could be the end game. Although I do realize that practically speaking, in the real world, basically that becomes part of a department, if you like, in Xverse or Hero, workload wise, and that becomes something that they can choose to prioritize or not prioritize. So it'll be very much dependent on them as an organization to decide or not to do that. Whereas if it were outside, we would have more control to push it or not push it. So that's the sort of trade-off.
I just want to make
build a React app, dude. Do it, and then hook it up to an API. It's got, you can raise issues to that repo, and then from there let users authenticate, obviously with their Stacks wallet, and then translate their data input into basically a call to the repo, to open an issue on the repo, right? And then you can
submit
the corresponding way based on how complex it is.
So you mean like submit requests to basically help them build it as a GitHub issue, and they just merge it or something?
Yeah, because I mean, you said that the data is going to come in multiple, I guess you'd say degrees of technical detail, right? So you're going to first split that and organize that via your form, and then you would use how it's split and organized to tag it in your GitHub repo, and then you just pass kind of the content body into the title and the content body into the title and content body of the GitHub repo, the issue that you're opening, right?
Yeah,
so
I'm not technical, so I can't.
to...
Maybe Chad can.
I can't really contribute much to what you guys were talking about just now, but I just wanted to make the point. Dan Trevino of Boom and Brad about 4 weeks ago were discussing briefly. They had a brief discussion during the Purple Pill Friday, every Friday there. They briefly discussed that. Wouldn't it be nice if somebody built that interface again to make it easier for people to find Stacks grants information? So I thought about it for about a week, and so the idea is not mine. It's Dan and Brad's idea, and all I tried to do was make it simple and easy to use. It's their idea, and I just took the opportunity and decided I could do it.
Anybody that has the ambition can take this on, because all they have to do is have it, like, as far as what we're just talking about, building a front-end interface to expose, basically raising GitHub issues for SIP proposals with whatever degree of complexity. That's a secondary thing, but anybody can take that on. All they're going to have to do is, in essence, the main key thing in there that they're going to have is an API key to GitHub, which you can get from GitHub. You're going to have to have a GitHub account. You're going to have to get an API key to it, and then you're going to have to do API calls to the specific GitHub repo that you're trying to raise the issue on. When your users input, you take that and then you use it as arguments in your API call to the GitHub repo. You're actually trying to translate it basically into an issue that's being raised on that repo, and that's going to require an API key. So anybody can do this.
So basically, Chad, right, with the grants portal or dashboard that you've built, you are pulling the issues that have been raised and had been approved. You're making certain calls to find out that it's been approved so that you can display it on your end. But I think what the issue here is that we're all kind of saying is that can you, Chad, then also do that the other way around, so that if somebody came to your dashboard, they could see an issue and they could actually interact with that issue in a much more simpler way, and then that issue would then get pushed to the GitHub branch, or anything, any action basically could get pushed from your website to the GitHub branch for that particular grant, or in this case it would be a SIP proposal, and in Bitcoin's case it would be a BIP proposal.
Well, when they click on, like on my I'll call it a dashboard. Dan calls it a dashboard, so I'll call it a dashboard app as well, what I've built. When they click on the title, they go to the issue, they go to the grant with full description. And so it's at GitHub, of course. So couldn't they raise the issue based on the information?
How are you getting the URL of the issue, though? Before you have a front end and you're presenting a link basically to the issue that opens in a new tab, right? Well, how are you getting that URL? Are you getting it via API calls, or do you just have a static array of them in there? Or what's going on?
I am going directly to the grant description and everything to do with that grant at that GitHub page.
Are you scraping it?
I scraped the wiki, the Stacks Grants Launchpad wiki. I scraped it.
You're getting the data in basically a method that's not a RESTful API. You're doing just data scraping, which is fine if you're just trying to get data. You're just calling it endpoint. You're scraping the data and then formatting it however you want. Well, you could do that same thing via a different method, which is basically a RESTful API method where you're calling the specific API endpoint that will allow you to see a list of those API issues in the JSON format, basically. And then you can take that JSON and plug it into your front end, according to whatever element it needs to be bound to. So the other caveat there, so basically you're doing the get side of things, right? You're basically getting the data already. You're just using a scrape method instead of a RESTful API method currently, it sounds like. If you pivoted to a RESTful API method, you could also do things like post methods, which will allow you to call that same API, but actually submit data to it. So your methodology, it sounds like you need to either implement a RESTful API side on the push, or sorry, the post side of it, and or maybe update the get side. But
if I may attempt to translate what you guys just said, it sounds if you want to view something, chat method currently works fine. But if you want to be able to create and write new stuff through this front end, you need to go around a different way.
Yeah, you have to utilize what's called an API key, because they're not just going to let anybody write to the repo. You have to be basically a developer that has an API key, so you can.
So
yeah,
I'd
imagine.
You want to view the information, you don't need to do this more.
Crypto,
because that's publicly available. Right?
Crypto, could I ask you a question? If I did that, if I changed to JSON coming back at my app and being able to write using the key, the API key, it wouldn't be reactive anymore, would it? My app is reactive. The search is totally reactive.
You can still make it reactive. It's how you're, so like when you're doing an API call, you can do API calls synchronously or asynchronously. So when you're doing an asynchronous callback, you're calling it, and then when you get the data back, you're using it when you get it back. You're not waiting until you get it back. Does that make sense?
Would that be like an AJAX request?
Yeah, AJAX is asynchronous Java.
Oh,
but
okay.
you don't have to use AJAX. I mean, you can use React and just write an asynchronous function that has a fetch method inside it, and then just as long as you prefix your fetch method with an await,
Okay.
then it'll wait for it'll respond basically once it gets the corresponding promise. Basically once it gets the response back from the server, then it'll inject the data where it needs to go down the stack.
Are you suggesting that I should make my app more capable of handling issues?
You can if you want. I'm just trying to give you some information on how you can go about it if you wanted to take on the ambition. I think it would be really cool for the community to be able to have a place where they don't have to have a GitHub account. They can just use their Stacks wallet to sign in, raise and say, hey, I know this would be a nice thing to have. And depending on their technical capabilities, they could provide more or less details as they're filling out the form, right? And then you can translate that information into a GitHub issue that could, depending on the level of technicality provided or technical details provided, you could tag the GitHub issue with various tags like, a raw issue, and then somebody that is managing that repo as a developer could come in there, look at the new issues that are raised.
Yeah, I take your suggestions seriously, and I'll definitely do some research and look into making my app have the set an issue idea or create an issue idea. I'll definitely look into it.
Hypocrisy. Thanks for trying to help with this. I sent you a website where I was talking about where there is almost like a front end now, but I don't know how advanced that is. I think it might be just like viewing the data right now. So maybe it's closer to chat's method right now. Maybe you could help take a look. That would be great to get some.
You sent me that in a DM?
Yes, in Twitter.
Okay, cool. I'll check it out.
Yeah. So Hero.
But I wanna mention something. Just 1 second. That just speak to very quickly to what chat said. I know maybe I don't know where the idea came from, but it almost doesn't matter, chat, because like many people talk about ideas, and it's the person who takes the action and create it that really sort of matters in my view. In a lot of the times, to be honest, like sometimes idea talks can be very cheap, and anybody can talk about it, but to take action takes time and takes skills. So I do think like what you're doing is demonstrating the actual sort of well, I just think like you taking action is what matters.
Build the change. Literally, build the change you wish to see. That's literally it.
Exactly. Like it does take. Unfortunately, it does take, like Bitcoin. People educate in Bitcoin every day, literally for free on Twitter, and that's how I almost learned lots of things about Bitcoin on Twitter for free. And unfortunately, like in the crypto world, even in Stacks world, even though there are incentives to help educate, there are grant or there are support systems to help educate, but still, like it won't cover like even 20% of the total need. So 80% of the total need still need to come from basically volunteers, if you like to speak very frankly, from the community. And it does take people's man hours to do it, to help free, basically. So it's not like an easy ask. And it does take lots of good, willing people like yourself and others.
Hero, I appreciate what you just said. What's on my plate for the future right now is based on will.btc, and he responded on December 16th. He says, yo, this is awesome, very cool. My dream is to have each of those link to code repos /snippets/tutorials. So that's what's on my plate now. I'm going to go with his dream, and I'm going to incorporate the idea of repos, snippets, and tutorials as part of the app.
I look forward to seeing that.
Sounds good, man. Because Will is the one he's the closest to how I would say the vision of the foundation, because the ground does come from there. If Trust Machine were giving out ground, they might have a different way of distributing or creating their vision of phone. But yeah, like the current ground in Stacks ecosystem does come from foundation, and the closest person to that is Will. So I would say he's definitely the right person to get a sense of.
Yeah, I'm taking his dream, and I'm going to endeavor to incorporate repos, snippets, and tutorials into the app.
What does a repo? Sorry, speak to like non-technical guys maybe. Could you explain what is repo snippets mean?
What I think he means is the most helpful repos, uh, a way to access code snippets, clarity, and tutorials that are out on the net, and also part of the ecosystem to incorporate those ideas into the app.
Yeah, the more you can provide value, basically, and most definitely tutorials and code snippets are going to be a lot of value, because it's going to help a lot of people out with being able to understand how to perform certain functions, right? Then you most definitely will have an app that I would suspect a lot of people would find valuable if you can actually get all those things that Will was talking in there.
Yeah, I'm taking on his dream. I've decided to do that. And so I have to figure out the best path. I'm going to start with snippets. I've decided that snippets is the first thing I want to bring into the app. And so I'm trying to figure out the best way to gather snippets.
That's going to be a long list, depending on how many snippets, and like if you're only talking about clarity, I guess that's not. I mean, that's still going to be long, potentially. But if you're also talking about like framework snippets to help people with how to use like some of the libraries, like the Connect library, or like how to use it in React or whatever, then
it's major. It is it is major. Yeah.
What difference would I feel as a user who doesn't have a GitHub account using that? What would be end result?
An easy way to search as a user. Yeah, this is more for developers, the snippets idea.
To interact with the grants program?
Yeah, well, the grants, I feel that I'm closing in on, like, I have to make searching for money in terms of grants an exact method. Right now, money searches for grants comes like 5,000 will find 45,000 and 25,000. Like, I have to make the search exact when it comes to money. But I feel like I'm reaching the end of making it
using
useful.
the RESTful API would help you with that, by the way, because yeah, because it's going to give you that data that I'm assuming all that data is relatively standardized in its format on the repos, right? And you should be able to drill into the specific field and then essentially.
Well, I got a database. Like, I have a database of the grants, so SQL. So I can. It's not going to be hard to get an exact match when I go into the database
this way you wouldn't really have to manage a database this way, though. Like you could utilize an API, and then your front end app, the user's going to load on their client browser, right? And then they're going to just do API calls to the GitHub repo, and then they're going to basically get all the data you should need. Well, assuming you might need a database for like your own additional data that's not necessarily stored on the GitHub repos.
Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah, that's the idea, that when I go to add on to it, which I've done, more than just the wiki that I scraped. So I like the idea of having my own database based on scraping. I like that idea. Scraping
How often are you scraping it?
as often as Will updates the data. Will is the author, and so in January, I imagine this month he's going to update based on the last cohort, and so it's by quarters, I believe, is the way he's doing it. So I'm waiting for that.
Cool.
Right, so guys, been a great space. We're gonna wrap up in about 7 minutes now. So big up to everybody that's come out, and big up to everybody that is jumped in and given their views again, like every time, like you guys are in here, man, speaking and contributing. And that's what, you know, we've been talking about for the last 5 minutes or so, 10 minutes, is contributing. How can you improve Bitcoin? How can you improve stacks? And quite rightly, to what Hero was saying to Chad, I mean, anybody can do this, and it is good to talk about it, yes, but if there is something that you're trying to learn, you know, whether it be for your own means to learn or not, you can actually use that to put in some little bit of extra learning, and use that information to actually try and make an effect for change in any of these ecosystems, from Bitcoin all the way across the board. But the proponent that we're talking about here is Bitcoin and obviously stacks. So yeah, big up to you, Chad, definitely for what you've been doing there. It is definitely an achievement, and it is one stepping stone, bro. Like Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say, you know. So it definitely is going to help to advance. And as long as you're advancing, you know, we're all here watching, we're all here, you know, helping in ways we can. And this conversation and all of these conversations are contributory to this improvement conversation. Big up to Fireburst, big up to Chad, big up to Hero, Doc, Crypto, Nat Nai, Chewy, Gresh, Julia, Boozy, Freddy, Stacks, Indonesia just came in, and Foiling Cowboy, yeah, like, and everybody else that was in the space earlier before we got rugged, and then double rugged, and then triple rugged before we self rugged, yeah. So
so many rugs.
so many rugs tonight, man.
What were
Thanks
you
for
guys talking about before improvement stuff?
We were going through Clarity and where people could find information on Clarity, and learning how they could apply, you know, whether it's NFT or you know, artworks or creative or anything that they wanted to do with smart contracts. So we were talking about that, and also kind of like the improvement of or learning of kind of like Bitcoin first principles, then using those to build other things like in the Stacks ecosystem, or, you know, on other ecosystems. Some comparison, and also we talked about console. That's where we first got rugged. Julia, they tried to take us down. Yeah, so yeah, we were talking about console, and I was just explaining that somebody had asked about D work. The guy Crypto, he'd asked about D work, and was explaining to him that obviously all of this that has been built, you know, the SIPs and advocates and all of these different things that are going on within the Stacks ecosystem. We've looked at D work. It's compatible with a lot of these ecosystems, but that console could really be the driver for combining a lot of these things into one space, which is again token gated or not, but token gated, we'll assume in this particular sense, and that you could build out these kind of communities and ecosystems where people could actively contribute. That's what I was going to get to, but it
Yeah.
got rugged.
Can I add a little note there on the community building? And you know, consoles most definitely doing their thing, and they're killing it, and it's awesome to see. Over at I'm not sure if anybody's keeping an eye out, but basically there's an app called Derupt, which is, you know, something I've been working on for a while, and basically it's kind of like a decentralized Twitter, but it's got integrated permissionless monetization and censorship resistance baked in. So the kind of like the top level is, you know, users can create chimes instead of tweets. You know, it's similar in that sense that you're, you know, creating a little bit of content with, you know, that's getting shared in a content feed. And then some of the, I guess you say some of the features of it that people would probably find pretty interesting is, you know, the so like when users post a chime and other users come along to like it, obviously it's not just a simple copy of what Twitter does, just giving you a little dopamine hit. It's, actual value being transferred. So there's, tokens being transferred from the liker to the author of that chime, and there's no fee taken by us. So, it's literally a peer-to-peer transfer, across obviously stacks. But, we make use of NFTs for profile avatars, and we have, profile pages where people can set custom banners and set a little bit about me information, external links pointing to maybe their site. There's, kind of what you would expect in that sense of a social network. You can follow people and whatnot, but there's additional features on there that are most definitely in the Web3 space significantly. So, we got likes, like I explained. There's dislikes even, which I don't know if anybody's noticed. You can't really do any dislikes on on content out there. Not unless you're using like plugins on it to dislike YouTube videos and get dislike counts, which no average user is doing that. So there's massive bias and feedback that out there in Web 2.0 that we're kind of combating as well. We're also doing additional features that no other apps have.
And did you say you had a link for that as well? Did you say at the beginning there?
Yeah, I can share the link here.
Post that up in the top, bro.
Why don't you put a link on your profile?
I kind of do, but it's secondary. It's so like there's multiple apps that I'm working on. So on my profile, it leads to cryptocracy.io, and then there's links to Derupt, and then there's links to Dapparatus, which is a different project that I'm working on. But that one's kind of chilling at the moment, collecting mothballs because not a lot of people are that interested in Dapparatus. But the link you can find kind of vicariously through the link that's on my profile page, but I'm going to also just comment it right here that people that are in this space can see it as a comment. Stacks London tweet that they had. So
cool. Right. While you're doing that, can we get just before you, Chad? Can we get Julia to jump up as well? Because she jumped up and put her hand up as well. So, and I know Chad, you've spoken quite a lot, but we'll get back to you in a second, Chad.
I'll keep this very short. I wanted to thank you guys for putting on this space. I look forward to it every 2 weeks. And I just want to thank you all. Thank you and London for doing this. I really appreciate it. I learn a lot. I like to listen and learn as much as I can, even though some of it is beyond me sometimes. But thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad, man. Thank you for joining in. It's the support as well that counts, man. Just do it, and you turn up, bro. And every time you've got always something to say, bro, and always a contribution to make. Remember, everyone is contributing. We're all contributing to this collective consciousness and guidance that we're all giving out into the universe to each other. Julia.
Hi guys, so it's actually quite loud where I am. Can you hear me okay?
You sound like you're a bit distant.
Yes, yeah. I'll do my best. So I just wanted to say grateful for the mention, and we're actually hosting an AMA on Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern. If anyone wanted to stop by and learn more about console.
You've gone way away now.
Oh, I was just going to say we're hosting an AMA on Monday. If anyone's interested in learning more about console, the founders and I are going to host it. So if anyone wants to join Console XYZ, we have Crash Punks on there. They've integrated super cool features, like they built a new game. So definitely hit me up. Sorry, my environment is so loud, but if you message me or message Console, we would be excited to chat with you about potentially onboarding your platform and seeing what we can build together. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Julia. Definitely, man. So that is a doc. I don't know if you can maybe put it up at the top, but that is Console will be doing.
I'm not co-hosting this one.
Oh, okay, right. So it might be Fireburst. I don't know.
I shouted up at the top of the last.
Hold on, here's one. I'll grab the Console one as well. That up the top. Does anyone else want to say anything else quickly before we roll up?
I'll just jump in while you're busy with the Megatron or the Jumbotron or the Nest, as we Brits call it. I just want to say it's been a great session. I have never been rugged so many times, but I believe we're all in good company. What I do want to say very, very quickly, it's 2023, is it not? I think it's time to really, for each of us, to really take action. And, you know, each week we're coming to this space, bring somebody new. Each one of us has to bring somebody new next week that has no idea of stacks. Let's spread the message, because by direct action, we can all make a difference. And it's not about relying on somebody else. It's about doing it yourself. So I believe we each do that. I'm absolutely going to do it. And I hope that each of us can do that and take this moment to look around, you know, these different profiles and follow each other. That's how we get to spread the message and bring the numbers up, because it's only by educating ourselves and then each other. So my one request of stacks, don't laugh, everyone. I'm a very humble human being. So everyone knows I'm a Bitcoiner first. So I earn my Satoshis every day. I go walking 6 days a week up a mountain and I earn it. I earn my Satoshis. It's a great app. If you want to earn and get healthy, please DM me. I hope Stacks will come out with a similar kind of app where I can start earning some stacks, and I'll add that to my repertoire. It's a good idea. It's about being healthy. In the end, I don't care how many Satoshis I earn. I know that I got the app towards the end of last year and I've done over 1 million steps. I'm hoping to do 10 million before the year is out. So think about it like that. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, so much, and have a great new year. Thank you.
Thank you, Fireburst. And thank you, guys. We appreciate all of you guys for tuning in and everything. I think we're waiting on Matt on the space. I don't know if you remembered, he's the one who hosted. So